It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 32, looking at the players of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Ghana. Part 1, Candidates. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 32 on the players of the 2026 World Cup. This episode covers Ghana's players. There are 48 teams in this World Cup, so that's more than we've ever done for one tournament. But as you might get from our series number, Series 32, we've been doing this for a while, and we have done mediacasts for most of the players. For the players of most of the teams, and actually most of them within the last couple of years. So if you're interested in looking into a team before we put out a media cast for this tournament, you can check our back catalogue using the addresses on the screens or in the show notes. Okay, on we go, and we're doing this media cast in two parts. Part 1 here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examine the participation of players in games over the recent period, as well as a couple of other factors, and we categorize players into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, and seemingly off the squad. We'll go into more detail introducing the players that we think likely to reach the final squad, and less, perhaps even just the names of players unlikely to get there. Part 2 will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad selected. That'll probably be in late May or early June. And at that time, we'll go back over the list that we create here and see who made it and who didn't. We'll also cover things like predicting starters, updating injuries, and surprise selections. So this episode has 3 sections. In section 1, we're going to look at some general team information there. Section 2 is the main part of the media cast. We're going to go through each position and look at the candidates and their likelihood of selection. And finally, in section 3, we're going to do a quick review of section 2 to create a short version of the media cast. And we have some other concluding matters there, including a look at injuries. All right, let's go to section 1 then, and some team information. We're going to look at the games in the build-up to the Cup for Ghana. We're examining, for Ghana, the positions of players from after the 2023 African Cup. That's because they were part of the 2025 African Cup. And so that tournament, the 2023 African Cup, took place in January and February of 2024. So after that, Ghana played 20 games, and that will make up our look at the participation of players. But we will kind of refer back to the 2023 African Cup for a few things. So that will be kind of our starting point. And that was in January of 2024. They didn't pass the group stage there, so just 3 games there, and that was under manager Chris Hughton. However, that poor performance cost him his job. He was fired in January, and manager Otto Addo was hired, actually rehired there. We'll talk about that right at the beginning of section 2. So the rest of the period is under manager Otto Addo, and that began with 2 friendlies in March of 2024. Both of those were somewhat experimentative, especially in defense. So we're getting some of the B team players, maybe a couple of new players being tried out, and sometimes players in different positions. That's what I mean by experimentative. And I won't explain it every time. They have 8 games over this period that were experimentative. So I'll just mention that, but that's what it means. Next, we go to June 2024, where they had 2 World Cup qualifying games. Those were their 3rd and 4th World Cup qualifying games of 10. So 2 games there. In September and November, it was all African Cup qualifying for the 2025 World Cup, a really disastrous campaign for Ghana there. And actually, in the last two games, I think they realized they weren't going to make it, so made it two experimentative games in the last two matches there. So that was six games in all, and we go to March 2025, where they play the next of their World Cup qualifying games. Two matches there. Well, it was June 2025 for most teams, but for Ghana, May 2025, they had a couple of friendly games. Again, these two games were experimentative. And the next games were in September and October 2025, the last four of the World Cup qualifying matches there. So with World Cup qualifying complete and no kind of playoffs or anything to do, they had two friendlies in November of 2025. Those two were also experimentative to some degree. There were some 18 players on the field in most of those experimentative games, but definitely some new things being tried out. So that's quite a bit. 8 of the 20 games experimentative. All right, and let's move on to look at the formations over those 20 games. And we have quite a variety here, so we can see that they were pretty experimental in the formations as well as the personnel. So we'll summarize here by saying the formation they used the most was the 4-2-3-1. That was what they used in the African Cup in January 2024 as well. But only 6 out of the 20 times over this period, so 30% of the games there. They experimented quite a lot with formations. Next, we have a 4-3-3 formation used 5 times, so 25% of the games. And the only other one we'll mention is the 3-4-3 formation, which they used in 3 of the games. The other 6 games, they used a different formation every time. It's kind of a one-off formation. So really, really experimenting a lot there. Let's look at the analysis, though, of that. And what we find is a two-man central defense in 70% of those games, but a three-man central defense in 30%. So experimenting quite a bit with a three-man central defense. Not so much at the forward line, though. We have a single forward in 90% of the games. I'll just remind you that we view a three-man forward line not as 3 forwards, but as 1 forward with 2 attacking midfielders, because it usually is the attacking midfielders filling that role. Sometimes it is a player coded as a forward. So that means they just used a 2-man forward line in 10% of the game. So generally a single man centre forward there for Ghana. Last order of business here in section 1 is the upcoming games. So like most countries, they have friendlies in March. A few countries playing World Cup playoff games and intercontinental playoff games, but Ghana already there were able to play friendlies. And so they went to Austria and Germany. They haven't been played yet, but they are scheduled to go to Austria and Germany, March 27th in Austria and March 30th in Germany there. And finally, they will hope, by the way, to do a little better than they did in November games, because they played Japan and South Korea. They traveled to those countries and lost both games. So maybe experimenting a little bit too much there. Next, we have the World Cup warm-up games. They've scheduled a couple of those. The first one on May 22nd in Mexico. They will play Mexico. And then on June 2nd they'll play in Wales against Wales. And so those 2 games scheduled. There may be one more scheduled. I wouldn't be surprised, because that May 22nd game is not very close to the Cup. So I would imagine they would like to play a game in USA and kind of get used to being there. Okay, those are the upcoming games, and we will update them if we have any more added. We can do that in part 2. But let's continue with section 2 here. And this is the main part. I'll look at the candidates. So let's talk a little bit about the manager situation, or we pretty much did, I suppose. We had Chris Hughton as the manager in the last African Cup. Actually, Chris Hughton took over. He was an assistant manager under Otto Addo in 2022. Otto Addo was let go and Chris Hughton took over. But then after Chris Hughton was dismissed following the 2023 African Cup, Otto Addo took over. So that's the story there. Otto Addo has been in charge. So we won't go into any detail on Chris Hughton there, but let's talk about Otto Addo, since he looks like he'll be leading them through the cup. Otto Addo, again, in his second stint there with Ghana from 2024, his first stint just in 2022 there. And he had been involved with Ghana as an interim manager and an assistant manager prior to that. He was an assistant manager for Borussia Dortmund as well as a talent coach there, and mostly was more of an assistant manager or in some other role rather than a head manager there. He managed Hamburg's underage teams in Germany from 2009 to 2015, and also had some as I said, kind of had some other jobs, a head scout for Ghana and a talent coach for some German teams there. So Otto Addo, he was, by the way, a player for Ghana from 1999 to 2006. Just 15 caps and 2 goals for them. His connection with Germany, though, was that he was born in Germany. Okay, that's Otto Addo, and he looks like the manager for the cup, so we will consider him a definite candidate here. Let's move to the goalkeepers, and we have 2 definite candidates here, Benjamin Asare and Lawrence Atizigi. Both of those definite. At the likely level, we have Joseph Anang, and then seemingly off the squad, Abdul Nuruddin and Richard Ofori. Also Jojo Wallacott. All 3 of those seemingly off the squad. This is a good opportunity to talk about the colours if you're watching the YouTube version of this. The black indicates that they've been through a tournament. Dark grey means they have been through a tournament but are off the squad. Light grey means they have not been through a tournament, and orange means they've just been added to our list, I suppose, just this period, during this period. So we have representation of all 4 of those. Benjamin Asare is our definite first, the first of 2 definite candidates. His name is in light grey, so has no tournament experience. He's been with Ghana since 2024 with 7 caps and no goals, and he is 34 years old, and he plays in Ghana. He's been with a few teams there in Ghana, currently with Hearts of Oak, and first came on our radar when he was selected for the preliminary squad for the 2023 African Cup, but he didn't make the final cut there. He got his first cap actually quite a bit later in March of 2025, but really has stormed onto the scene starting 8 of the remaining 10 games there and on the bench for the other 2. So he has become their starting keeper over the last year. That would be at the expense of our definite candidate, Lawrence Atizigi. He's been with Ghana since 2017 with 29 caps and is 30 years old. And he plays for St. Gallen in Switzerland since 2020. there. He was part of the African Cup back from the 2019 African Cup. In the 2019 and 2021 editions, he was on the bench there, but he was a starter in the World Cup, the 2022 World Cup. However, he went back to being a backup keeper for the 2023 African Cup. Nevertheless, he started 7 of their 20 games over the period. That includes the first 6 matches after the African Cup there. So basically from March until the end of 2024. Nevertheless, he was on the bench for 11 other matches. So still called up regularly, just seems to have lost his position as starting keeper for a second time, really. Our likely candidate is Joseph Anang. He has just come onto our radar. Got his first cap for Ghana in 2025. He only has that 1 cap, and he is 26 years old. Joseph Anang plays for a team in Ireland, St. Patrick's Athletic, since 2024. He was with West Ham in England prior to that, although he didn't play any games in his 3 years with West Ham senior team. And Joseph Anang first appeared on the bench in May of 2025. That's a bit of an experimental game, so he was a recruitment for that. But he started 1 of their remaining 8 games, but remained on the bench. So he was called up for the 7 matches afterwards, just on the bench. And that's why we have him as a likely candidate here. All right, the first of our seemingly off-the-squad players is Abdul Nuruddin. I won't give as much detail on these players, but he was a backup in the 2021 African Cup and the 2022 World Cup. Just on the preliminary squad for the last African Cup, but he has kind of been around. He last appeared for the national team in November 2024, but has not appeared since then. So Abdul Nuruddin seemingly off the squad. Richard Ofori, our second candidate at this level, was the starting keeper in the 2023 African Cup, and he was with Ghana from 2015 with 33 caps for them. He's 33 years old now, so maybe an outside chance of him coming back in. He currently plays for Amazulu in South Africa since 2024. And in fact, he's been in South Africa with 3 teams since 2018. Was on the African Cup squad for the 2017 and 2019 editions, was actually the starter in 2019, but then injury prevented him from the 2021 African Cup and the 2022 World Cup. But he came back to start, as I said, the 2023 African Cup, but last appeared for the team in that tournament, so not called up after that, Richard Ofori. Finally, we have Jojo Wallacott, and he was the starter in the 2021 African Cup, so different starters for a lot of these cups. He was injured for the 2022 World Cup and on the bench for the 2023 African Cup. And he has been called up since, last appeared for the national team on the bench in March of 2025. But that's quite a while ago now. Yeah, maybe possible, but unlikely given that he played in 2025. I'll leave him where he is, though, because we will look at these players a bit more closely if they are selected for the final squad. So that's Jojo Wallacott, seemingly off the squad, and those are our goalkeepers. So they'll generally bring 3 goalkeepers. Some teams bring 4. Looks like it's going to be 3 for Ghana here, and we have those 3, Benjamin Azer, Lawrence Atiziki, and Joseph Anang, looking like the 3 that they will bring. Okay, let's move on to central defence. And we'll begin with the definite candidate in Mohamed Salatu. And we also have a likely candidate in Alexander Jiku. And also, actually, we have several likely candidates, 2 more to go here. Jonas Ajeti and Jerome Okoku, all 3 of those likely candidates. 2 possible candidates, Razak Simpson and Kojo Opong. both at the possible level. And then seemingly off the squad, Daniel Amarty, Abdul Mumin, and Nicholas Opoku. So let's take a look at these. They generally bring 5 or 6 central defenders. We do have a right back to talk about too, who sometimes joins, but we'll get to him when we get to the right back position. We begin with definite candidate Mohamed Salisu, and he's been with Ghana since 2022 with 23 caps and 4 goals. He is 29 years old there. Salisu plays for Monaco in the French league there, and was with Southampton in England for 3 years before that, and prior to that with Real Valladolid in Spain. So a pretty good resume there for Salisu. His first tournament was the World Cup in 2022. He was a starter in that cup and in the 2023 African Cup there. And over the recent period, Salisu has started 11 of their 20 games, subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 2. He was injured for 1 and not selected for 5 others, and yet we still have him as a definite candidate. If he's healthy, that is, because he's currently out with a cruciate ligament injury tear since early February. Our research for the players here really goes till the end of December, but we're actually doing this in February, so we do have some information like this on injuries and stuff from a bit beyond the end of 2025. So out with a cruciate ligament tear since early February and an unknown return date for him. Well, the cup is quite a ways off, so he may have time to recover. Although that can be kind of long-term. We'll talk about it again in section 3. Let's move on to the first of our 3 likely defenders. It is Alexander Djiku, and he's been with Ghana since 2020 with 38 caps and 4 goals. He is 32 years old, and he was born in France there. He was part of the African Cup in 2021. That was his first tournament, and he was a starter there and in the 2023 African Cup. In the 2022 World Cup, he was a starter, but in game 1 only, he lost his starting position after that and just came in as a substitute for 1 game after that. Over the recent period, Alexander Djiku started 9 of their 20 games. He was out with 2 separate injuries for 4 games and not selected for others. Not selected for 7 others. That includes the last 2 matches. But again, those were kind of experimental matches, so we don't take it that seriously that he wasn't called up for those. He actually, like Mohamed Salisu, scored 2 of their 23 goals, so both of them getting a brace in qualifying for this World Cup here. In the case of Djiku, both of them were near the end of the campaign there. So Alexander Djiku, a likely candidate. The second likely candidate is a newcomer. It's Jonas Ajeti. He's been with Ghana since 2024 with 7 caps and no goals, and he's 23 years old. Plays for Wolfsburg in Germany since 2026, so a very recent transfer there, and played for Basel in Switzerland for 3 years prior to that. He got his first appearance on the bench in September of 2024 and has started 5 of their remaining 16 games. I think most of those are right at the end of the period. In addition to the 5 starts, he subbed in for 2 and was on the bench for 4. So just 5 matches since being called up that he was not selected for. So Jonas Ajeti, a likely candidate. And the third likely candidate is Jerome Opoku. He's been with Ghana since 2023 with 9 caps and 1 goal. He is 28 years old and plays for Istanbul Başakşehir in Turkey since 2024. He was with the team in Arouca in Portugal prior to that. And he also played for Fulham in England from 2019 to 2022. Jerome Opoku, and I say Jerome Opoku here because there's another Opoku on the field or on the team that we'll meet later. Jerome Opoku was selected for the preliminary squad for the last African Cup, the 2023 African Cup, but didn't make the final cut. Over the recent period, he started 5 of their 20 games and was subbed in for 4, and on the bench for 5 as well. So just 6 of the 20 matches that he wasn't called up for. So Jerome Opoku, a likely candidate. Let's look at the first of our 2 possible candidates, Razak Simpson, new to the squad since 2024 with 7 caps and 1 goal. He's 28 years old and he plays in Ghana, a team I'm not familiar with actually in Ghana called Nations. Maybe it's a renamed team or a new one. He's been with them since 2023. Razak Simpson was on the preliminary squad for the 2023 African Cup. That's when he came onto our radar, but he didn't make the final cut there. Had to wait until November 2024 to get his first cap, and then went on to start 4 of their remaining 12 games there. Subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1. However, Simpson was not selected for the last 6 matches, so just a possible candidate here. The other possible candidate is Kojo Opong or Kojo Pepra Okong, and he's been with Ghana since 2025 with 4 caps and no goals. He's 22 years old and plays for Nice in France since 2025 and was with Norrköping in Sweden for 2 years before that. He got his first cap, Opong, in October 2025, and he started 2 of their remaining 3 games to the end of 2025 and subbed in for the other. But keep in mind that those last 2 games were a bit experimental, so he may not have been a starter had they been World Cup qualifiers, for example. The first of 3 players seemingly off the squad is Daniel Amartey, an experienced player for Ghana from 2015 to 2024 with 55 caps and no goals. Currently just 32 years old, so I suppose there's a chance of him making it back onto the squad. Well, no, I think he has actually retired from soccer. I have him playing for Beşiktaş in Turkey until 2024 there. He played for a long time for Leicester in England, but I don't want to go into too much detail. He was basically part of every tournament since the 2015 African Cup, except the 2019 version. Was part of the last African Cup, but having been a starter in most of the ones before that, he was only a substitute in that, and last appeared for the national team in that 2023 African Cup. So Daniel Amartey seemingly off the squad. Next we have Abdul Mumin. And he was part of the 2021 African Cup, just on the bench there, but not selected for the 2 tournaments after that. He was called up, though, last appeared for the national team in October of 2024, Abdul Mumin, but now seemingly off the squad. And thirdly, we have Nicholas Opoku. That may be 3 Opokus then. We had Jerome Opoku as a likely candidate here. Nicholas Opoku was with the team since 2017, but didn't make a tournament until the 2023 African Cup, where he was just a bench player there, and he last appeared in that tournament. So Nicholas Opoku seemingly off the squad. All right, that is it for central defenders, and that's quite a long list of players, but keep in mind we're doing 2 and possibly even 3 positions because they sometimes use the 3-man central defense. So hopefully the next set of or the single positions should be will have fewer players. So I've just put those players in the wrong place. So I'm just fixing up the graphics before we move on to left backs here. And let's begin with the definite candidate, Gideon Mensah. And then we have a likely candidate in Ebenezer Annan. He's a newcomer. So is our possible candidate, Derek Cohn. And then we have seemingly off the squad, Patrick Capozzo. Okay, let's go and take a look at these players. Gideon Mensah, I'll introduce. He's been with Ghana since 2019 with 38 caps and 1 goal, and he is 27 years old. He plays for Auxerre in France since 2022 and played for Red Bull Salzburg for 5 years before that. He first appeared tournament-wise in the 2021 African Cup and just on the bench there. In the World Cup 2022, he at least got on the field for a couple of minutes, but in the 2023 African Cup, Gideon Mensah was a starter there and has been a starter since, starting 12 of their 20 games over the recent period, subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1. Injured for 2 and not selected for 2 others. That doesn't add up to 20, but I may have a bit of a mistake in there. Anyway, he is a starter. I think actually he may have started 14 because he started quite a few games there. Anyway, Gideon Mensah, a definite candidate. Next, we have newcomer Ebenezer Annan. With Ghana since 2025 with 7 caps already and no goals. He is 24 years old and plays for Saint Etienne in France since 2025 and with Red Star Belgrade in Serbia for a year before that. He started 2 of their 20 games over the recent period. He subbed in for 5 and was on the bench for 9. And injured for 2, so just 2 matches that he was not selected for there. So we have Ebenezer Annan as a likely candidate. Actually, in terms of participation, that's more the profile of a definite candidate because he's a newcomer, we're just a little uncertain there, so we put him at the likely level. Next, we have Derek Cohn, also a newcomer since 2025. He's been with Ghana since 2025. He's got 1 cap and no goals, and he's 27 years old. Plays for Union Berlin in Germany since 2025. Actually, he was born in Germany, and but did play for Galatasaray in Turkey before that, so has played outside of Germany as well. He returned after an 11-month absence right at the end of the period here in November 2025, and in those experimental games he got a start and an appearance on the bench. Yeah, so we're not really sure where that leaves us with him because those were experimental games. Perhaps we'll get more insight in when we get to part 2, see if he plays in those March games. Finally, we have Patrick Capozzo, and I'll just say for him that he last appeared on the bench in March of 2024. Not a big player for Ghana at this point. Those are our left backs. Let's go to the right back position, and we begin with Alidou Seydou. He's the one I was referring to when I said sometimes plays as a central defender. In fact, he's currently coded as a central defender. We may change that in our files actually and move him to right back because most of his games were here during the period. However, he did play left back a couple of times and also played as a right central defender when it was a 3-man defense, especially early in the period. So Alidou Seydou, a bit of a versatile defender at this point, but we put him at right back because that's where he has primarily appeared in this period. I gave a bit too much information because I'm supposed to introduce players first. So at the likely level, we have Caleb Yerenki. Not sure how to pronounce it there. At the possible level, Tarek Lamptey. And then a couple of players at the possible but unlikely level, Kingsley Schindler and Kamaradini Mamadou. Both of those possible but unlikely. And seemingly off the squad was the starter in the 2023 African Cup, Dennis Odoi. Let's go back to the top and introduce Aladou Seydoux a little bit more. We talked about his versatile positioning there. He's been with Ghana since 2022 with 23 caps and 1 goal, and he's 26 years old, and he plays for Stade Reims in France since 2024. And was with Clermont Foot, a French team before that. His youth team was actually in Ivory Coast there. And yeah, sorry, looks like my information is a bit mixed up here. I think he was in the 2021 African Cup. I just don't have the title for that in my notes. But he definitely was part of the 2023 African Cup, just a sub in that one. Over the recent period, though, Seydoux has started 10 of their 20 games in various positions, but mostly as a right back. Subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 1. He was injured for 4 matches, and there were 3 matches he was not selected for. But we have Seydoux as a definite candidate here. The likely candidate is a newcomer, Caleb Urenki, and he's coded as he was coded as a central midfielder. We changed that. He did start the last November game in central midfield, but over the period has started as a right back here. He's been with Ghana since 2025 with 6 caps and no goals, and he's just 20 years old and plays for Nordsjælland in Denmark since 2024. He was with their youth club as well, but he was born in Ghana, Urenki, and got his first cap in May of 2025. And started 6 of their remaining 8 games. So started off in a kind of a recruitment game, but I suppose that's what recruitment games are for, is to find players like this who then become part of the main squad. So started 6 of their 8 games and subbed in for the 2 others. So looking quite likely there, Caleb Urenki, as they try to find a steady right back here. That might have been Tariq Lamptey. He's been with Ghana since 2022 with 11 caps and no goals. He's 26 years old. Moved to Fiorentina in Italy in 2025, having moved from his club in England, Brighton. He was with Brighton for 5 years, and Chelsea and Chelsea's youth club prior to that. Tariq Lamptey was born in England and became a Ghanaian player in 2022. He was part of the World Cup squad in 2022, subbed into game 1 and started game 2 there, but not selected, surprisingly, for the 2023 African Cup. In fact, I don't think he had played much before the World Cup, or he hadn't played much before the World Cup and wasn't selected after it. So not sure what's going on there. He started 3 of their 20 games over the recent period, though, so he's back in the picture, and subbed in for 4 as well, and on the bench for 3. But he has been struggling with injuries over the period. In fact, 4 separate injuries kept him out for 8 games. But there were no games that he was simply not selected for. So Tariq Lamptey, a possible candidate, but perhaps even a likely candidate. Injuries getting in the way. In fact, his last injury is still kind of ongoing. That is a cruciate ligament, or actually it's surgery on a cruciate ligament, but he is due back April 15th. And if that is the case, he will actually have time to, gain fitness for the club, gain fitness for Ghana in the Cup. So we'll have to see. Maybe we can shed more light on that in part 2. Let's move on to our possible but unlikely candidates. You might guess that Kingsley Schindler is German-born. He's been with Ghana since 2023 with 8 caps and no goals. And sorry, I'm giving more information than I should for a possible but unlikely player. So I'll just say I can't help but say that he's moved to play in Thailand for a team in Thailand there. Which maybe is the reason he's kind of not being called up. He was part of the African Cup roster in 2023, even though he wasn't even on the bench for any of the games. But he has been called up since, but he last appeared for the national team in March of 2025, which may have been around the time he moved to Thailand. That's probably not good for his international career, having moved from, mid-level teams in Turkey and Germany to a, albeit top team in Thailand. It's Buriram United, but kind of moved off, I would guess, the manager's radar a little bit there. Okay, the other possible but unlikely candidate is Kamaradini Mamudu. And he plays in Sudan since 2026, having moved from Mediama in Ghana. And he got his first appearance in November 2024 and did start one game and subbed in for one. He was on the bench for 3, but then not selected for the last 6 matches. So that is Kamaradini Mamadou, possible but unlikely. Finally, we have Dennis Odoi off the squad, and he's a Belgian-born player and was part of the World Cup squad in 2022, a substitute there, but a starter in the last African Cup that Ghana played in 2023. In January of 2024 is when it actually happened. However, he has not been called up for the team since March of 2024. So off the team shortly after the Cup there, Dennis Odoi seemingly off the squad then. Okay, that is it for right backs and for defence. And we're going to move on to the midfield. We're going to do defensive and central midfielders according to what they're coded as, but in fact, there's not a lot of difference between the two. And so, for example, in a 4-3-3 formation or any formation where there's just one line of midfielders, it could be either defensive or central midfielders, but we'll do according to their coding. And for defensive midfielders, we have no definite or likely candidates, so we go down to the possible level where we have 3. The first one is Salis Abdul Samed, and then we have Elisha Owusu, and we also have Ibrahim Sulemana. He probably shouldn't be coded as a defensive midfielder because I think, unless I'm mixing him up with another Sulemana, I think he sometimes plays as a left or right attacking midfielder. But anyway, we'll introduce him and then perhaps clarify that later. The first candidate is Salis Abdul Samed. He's been with Ghana since 2022. With 22 caps there and no goals. He's 26 years old, plays for Nice in France since 2025 and was with Lens in France before that. He too had his youth club in Ivory Coast rather than in Ghana. He was on the preliminary squad for the 2021 African Cup, Salis Abdul Samed, but not selected for that tournament. However, he was a starter in the 2022 World Cup. Started all 3 games there. In the 2023 African Cup, he subbed into game 1 and then gained a starting position. Over the recent period, Abdul Samed has started just 6 of their 20 matches there, subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 1. He was injured for 8 matches but I believe it was the fall of 2024, and not selected for the last 4 matches there. In 2025. So Salis Abdul Samed, a possible candidate. Next we have Elisha he's Elisha Owusu. He's also been with Ghana since 2022 and he has 17 caps and no goals. He's 29 years old and plays for Auxerre in France since 2023. All of his clubs have been in France because he was born in France. That includes Lyon in France from 2017 to 19. Sorry, I made a mistake. After that, he was with Ghent in Belgium for 4 years, so he did play in Belgium. Elisha Owusu was on the squad for the 2022 World Cup, just on the bench there. And in the recent African Cup, I shouldn't say the recent because it's not the 2025, it's the 2023. He appeared only briefly on the briefly in game two, coming in right at the end there. He did start four of their games over the recent period, though, Elisha Owusu, as well as subbing in for four. So started four, subbed in for four, on the bench for one, but not selected for the other matches, including the last three. So we have Owusu as a possible candidate here. Finally, we have newcomer Ibrahim Sulemana, been with Ghana since 2024 with 6 caps there and no goals, and he is 23 years old. He's playing for Atalanta in Italy since 2025, or is at least on their roster because he's been loaned out currently to Cagliari since 2026, and with Bologna before that. Cagliari was actually the team he was with before Atalanta. Sulemana got his first appearance on the bench in June 2024 and has started 5 of their remaining 8 games. Again, I think that's as a more attacking midfielder, so we'll have to review his position. Started 5, subbed in for 1, and on the bench for 2, but he missed 7 games due to injury, and then wasn't selected for the last 2 matches. So not really sure where things stand with Sulemana there, but he is a possible candidate. On to central midfielders, where we really get our main players for Ghana here, beginning with Thomas Partey, who is a definite candidate. We'll just list the names before we talk about them. We have 2 newcomers at the possible level. The first one is Kwasi Sibo, and then Abu Francis. Both of those likely candidates. None at the possible level, but seemingly off the... possible but unlikely is Majid Ashimeru, and also Lawrence Agicum. Both of those possible but unlikely. And then 3 players seemingly off the squad: Edmund Dado, Forson Amankwa, and finally Idrisu Baba. Okay, let's go back and take a look at the candidates. We'll introduce Thomas Partey. He's been with Ghana since 2016 with 56 caps and 16 goals. He's 33 years old now, and very good club credentials here. Villarreal in Spain since 2025, but he was with Arsenal in England for 5 years before that, and Atletico Madrid for 5 years before that. He's been part of Atletico Madrid's setup since 2011, so that would be 2011 to 20. He was with their youth team. Thomas Partey got his first tournament in the 2017 African Cup, and has been part of every tournament since then, a starter in all, including the 2022 World Cup. However, for the 2023 African Cup, despite being a definite candidate and selected for the preliminary squad, he had to be cut due to injury, so didn't participate in that cup. He came back, though, and started 9 of their 20 games over the recent period, was on the bench for 1, not selected for 10 matches. That includes 4 of the experimental matches there. We nevertheless consider him a definite candidate. He scored 3 of their 23 goals in qualifying and was a second top scorer. So we do think Thomas Partey is a definite candidate. The first of 2 likely candidates, both of them newcomers, is Kwasi Sibo, and he's been with Ghana since 2025 with 5 caps and no goals. He's 28 years old and plays for Real Oviedo in Spain since 2024, and a smaller team in Spain. Prior to that, he was with Watford in England from 2018 to 2021. Kwasi Sibo got his first cap in September 2025, but has started 5 of their remaining games. Started all 5 of their games since being called up. So that is making him a likely candidate for us here. The other one is Abu Francis. Abu Francis has been with Ghana since 2024 with 7 caps and no goals, and he is 25 years old. He plays for Toulouse in France since 2025 and has also been with clubs in Belgium and Denmark. In fact, Noord-Holland in Belgium, in Denmark was one of his youth clubs, but he did move from a youth club in Ghana and was born there. Abu Francis got his first appearance in March. On the bench in March of 2024. He went on to start 5 of their remaining 20 games and was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 7. So actually just 6 matches that he was not selected for. 2 of them were he was injured for, and so really 4 matches that he was simply not called up for. So Abu Francis also looking like a likely candidate here. Let's take a look at Majid Ashimuro. He's been with Ghana since 2017, but only has 13 caps, so a bit of a fringe player. It took until the 2023 African Cup for him to make it to a tournament, but he was a starter in that tournament. The long and short of it, though, is that he hasn't been selected for the last 6 matches. I want to make it kind of quick for these less likely players. So Majid Ashimuro, with a chance of coming back, but hasn't been or wasn't selected in the fall of 2025 there. Lawrence Agicum is new since 2025. He also wasn't selected for the last 6 matches. So we'll leave it at that for him. Let's look at the first of our 3 seemingly off the squad candidates. Edmund Atto, part of the 2021 African Cup, but not called up since then. Actually, he was out with malaria for the 2023 African Cup. Last appeared for the national team in March of 2024, so was called up after the 2023 African Cup. But only for the friendlies in March of 2024. Next, we have Forson Amankwa, and he was on the preliminary squad for the 2023 African Cup, but he hasn't been selected for the last 8 matches there. And finally, Idrisu Baba was part of the 2021 African Cup. As a starter, he got injured there, which ended his tournament, and also was injured for the 2022 World Cup. He was expected to make the squad for that, but injury prevented it. In the 2023 African Cup, he was a starter and also didn't finish the games because he lost his starting position there. He last appeared for the national team in March of 2024. So Idrissa Babu seemingly off the squad. All right, that is it for central midfielders, and let's go upfield. We don't have any players coded as left and right midfielders, so we're kind of moving on to the attacking end of the field here. We're going to begin with Jordan Ayew, who we're putting as a versatile attacker here. He played left and right attacking midfielder, mostly played as a centre forward during this period, but was kind of all over the place. But because he did play, especially as a left attacking midfielder several times, we wanted to introduce him here. Jordan Ayew is the captain of the... he's the only one on our list, by the way, of versatile attackers, and he's a definite candidate. Jordan Ayew is the captain of the team, very experienced. He has been with Ghana since 2010 with 119 caps and 34 goals, and he's currently 34 years old, playing for Leicester in England since 2024, and with various teams in England, Crystal Palace, Swansea and Aston Villa. He played in France before that for Lorient and Marseille. Those were from 2010 to 2015. And he was born in France. Jordan Ayew has been part of tournaments since the 2012 African Cup, and a starter in most of those. He actually was just a sub in the first game of World Cup 2022, but then went on to be a starter, and actually has become more important for the team as he's grown older. For the World Cup qualification here, he scored 7 of their 23 goals, and he was the top scorer for his team. Over this period, he started 14 of their 20 games, Jordan Ayew, and subbed in for 3. And not selected for 3 matches. That includes the November games, the last 2 experimental matches. So sometimes I wonder, especially if some of their top players are missing, that they sometimes give them a rest as they experiment with other players. So I am not concerned about him missing those last 2 matches, and view Jordan Ayew as a definite candidate. So really could be among the left attacking midfielders and the right attacking midfielders. So keep him in mind here. But we're going to begin with Antoine Semenyo, who's coded as a forward, actually, and does play as a forward as well, but has been primarily a left attacking midfielder during this period. He's a definite candidate. We'll come back to Antoine Semenyo. We have 2 likely candidates as well. Kamaldeen Sulemana. Okay, and maybe he's the Sulemana that I was mixing up with the defensive midfielder here. Kamaldeen Sulemana is a likely candidate. And we also have Christopher Bonsu Ba, or Christopher Ba, as a likely candidate. None at the possible level, and just one at the possible but unlikely level. That is newcomer Ibrahim Osman. So let's go through these players, beginning with Antoine Semenyo. He's been with Ghana since 2022 with 32 caps, and actually, though a prolific scorer for his club, only has 3 goals for Ghana. One of them in qualification for this World Cup here. He is 26 years old and recently moved to Manchester City in England. Since 2026 then, was with Bournemouth in England for 3 years before that, and Bristol City for 5 years prior to that. Antoine Semenyo was born in England and actually started out with some pretty small clubs. He was loaned by Bristol City to Bath City and Newport County in England there. He was part of the squad for the 2022 World Cup, but just a substitute. And for the 2023 African Cup, he was a starter in all 3 games there. And recently, over the recent period, has started 14 of their 20 games, Antoine Semenyo, subbed in for 1 and not selected for 5 others. So we think he will be a definite candidate. Probably more of a right attacking midfielder for Manchester City, but more of a left attacking midfielder over this period for Ghana. Next, we have a likely candidate in Kamaldeen Sulemana, and he's been with Ghana since 2020 with 25 caps and 1 goal. And he's 24 years old, plays for Atalanta in Italy since 2025 and Southampton for 2 years before that. His first tournament, Kamaldeen Sulemana, was the 2021 African Cup. He was a starter in that one, but he's kind of fallen off since. He was selected for the 2022 World Cup, but just a substitute. And then he was not selected for the 2023 African Cup. He made the preliminary squad, but not the final cut. So recently he had returned after a year-long absence in June of 2024 and went on to start 3 of their remaining 18 games, as well as subbing in for 4 and on the bench for 3. But he was injured for 4 and not selected for 4. I'm guessing, because we have him as a likely candidate, though, that he's been on the squad more recently there. So we do have him as a likely candidate. The other likely candidate is Christopher Bonsu Ba. He's been with Ghana since 2025, a newcomer with 6 caps and no goals, and he's 22 years old. He plays in Saudi Arabia for Al Qadsiya, but was with Genk in Belgium from 2023 to 2025, and then a team in Norway before that. He was born in Ghana, though. He got his first appearance on the bench in March of 2025 and started 3 of the remaining 10 games, as well as subbing in for 3 and on the bench for 4. So always selected after or from March of 2025. And I've seen him play as a left winger and as a right attacking midfielder. So positions are a bit fluid up front, especially for Ghana. Christopher Bonsuba, then a likely candidate. And then we go down to our possible but unlikely Ibrahim Osman. And we'll just say that he was... he didn't start any games. He was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 5, but not selected for 8 matches. So again, I'm guessing most of those are towards the end, since we have him as an unlikely candidate. Over his 3 substitute appearances, he only played 6 minutes there, Ibrahim Osman. So we'll introduce him more if he's selected. He does play for Brighton, or at least is on the roster for Brighton in England. Currently playing for Birmingham in England, but we won't say more there. Let's move on to right attacking midfielders. And we start with a likely candidate, so no definite candidate here, with Abdul Fatawu. I do sometimes see his name listed as Isahaku. So his actual name, Isahaku Abdul Fatawu, but you may see him listed as Isahaku. He is a likely candidate. And then we have a possible candidate in Joseph Paintsil. And possible but unlikely 2 candidates here. The first is Ransford Yeboah Koningsdorfer, and you might guess that he was born in Germany with a name like that, and you'd be right. The other one is Ernest Nuama, and we have a seemingly off the squad player in Osman Bukhari. So let's go back to the top and talk a little bit about Abdul Fatawu. He's been with Ghana since 2021, 25 caps and 2 goals for him, but he's just 22 years old. He's currently playing for Leicester in England since 2024. Prior to that, he was with Sporting Lisbon in Portugal, pretty good team there, and he was born in Ghana, so he did play for clubs in Ghana there. Fatu's first tournament was the 2021 African Cup, a substitute in that tournament, and a very brief substitute appearance in the 2022 World Cup, but he was on the roster. In the 2023 African Cup, he declined participation. That was something to do with his club team, Sporting Lisbon, but I won't get into it. He started 6 of their 20 games over the period, the recent period, so he was called back to the national team despite those club problems to start 6 of their games, subbing in for 3 and on the bench for 1. He was injured for 5 and not selected for 4 others, including the last 2 experimental matches. And I am finding that the players not selected for those generally play for big teams, so perhaps are given a chance to focus on their club play. Okay, that's Abdul Fatawu, and let's go to the possible candidate here, Joseph Paintsil. He's been with Ghana since 2017 with 19 caps and no goals. He's 28 years old, and he plays for LA Galaxy in the USA since 2024. He was with Genk in Belgium for 6 years before that, and with youth clubs in Ghana. Joseph Paintsil's first tournament was the 2021 African Cup. He was a starter in that, but he lost his starting position after game 1 and was not selected for the 2022 World Cup on the preliminary roster there, but not making the final cut. However, he was selected for the 2023 African Cup, Joseph Paintsil, and over the recent period, actually didn't start any of their 20 games, but he was subbed in for 4 matches, out with 2 separate injuries for 4, and not selected for 12 others. So perhaps we're being a bit generous putting him as a possible candidate. It may be that he was on the squad toward the end, is the only thing I can guess there. That's Joseph Paintsel. Our first possible but unlikely candidate is Ransford Yeboah Koningsdorfer. He's been with Ghana since 2022 with 7 caps, just 7 caps, and is 25 years old. Plays for Hamburg in Germany since 2022. All of his clubs have been in Germany, as I said. He was born in Germany. He actually played for their under 23 team before committing to Ghana. Koningsdorfer was part of the 2023 African Cup. He started game 1 actually there, but subbed out 62 minutes in due to an injury, and that ended his tournament. Koningsdorfer started one of their 20 games over the period and subbed in for 1, but not selected for 18 others, including the last 10 matches. So quite severe there. Hasn't been called up that much at all. Next, we have Ernest Nuama as a possible but unlikely candidate. And sorry, I gave too much information on Koningsdorfer there. I'll just say of Nuama that he was selected for the 2023 African Cup, but he suffered a serious knee injury in April of 2025 and has not played even for his club since then. So this one more due to injury. He started. Oh, sorry, he scored 2 of their goals in qualifying here, but last appeared in March of 2025. So we'll have to see if he's recovered from his injury. It might be that he'll be called up for the national team if he's recovered. He does play for Lyon in France since 2024, so that's a pretty good club affiliation. Finally, we have Osman Bukhari at the seemingly off the squad level. And he was part of the World Cup in 2022, a substitute there, and also a substitute in the 2023 African Cup, and did appear after, but last appeared in November of 2024, Osman Bukhari. Okay, that's our right attackers. We move on to the central attack. Where we meet one of their bigger players, Mohamed Kudus. Mohamed Kudus, a definite candidate. And then we go down to the possible level where we have one candidate. It's Prince Owusu. And then we have a couple of players seemingly off the squad. The first one, a big name for Ghana, Andre Ayew, brother of Jordan Ayew there. And we also have Michael Beidou, seemingly off the squad. Let's take a look at Mohamed Kudus. He's been with Ghana since 2019 with 46 caps and 13 goals, and he is 26 years old, playing for Tottenham in England since 2025. He was with West Ham for 2 years before that, and Ajax in Netherlands before that. He was part of the 2021 African Cup, just on the bench there, and not even on the bench for any of the 3 games, actually, but on the roster. In the 2022 World Cup, though, he was a starter in all 3 games, and in the 2023 African Cup, was absent for game 1, but gained a starting position after that. Kudus has scored 2 of their 23 goals in qualifying here and started 14 of the 20 games. He was injured for the last 2 games in November there, but he seems close to recovering from that injury. It was a hamstring injury, so we do think he will be. We don't think that will affect his candidacy here. Let's take a look at our possible candidate, Prince Owusu. And he was, well, he's a new candidate. on our radar since 2025 with 3 caps and no goals. He's 22 years old, and he's in Ghana, playing in Ghana for Mediama since 2024, and another team in Ghana prior to that. Owosu got his first cap in October of 2025, right at the end here, and started one of the remaining 4 games there, subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 1. So being so new to the team, we have him as a possible candidate. The 2 seemingly off the squad players, well, the first one is veteran Andre Ayew, brother of Jordan Ayew there, and captain of the team for several tournaments. Yeah, we won't go into too much detail. There's a lot of information on him. Like Jordan, the son of legendary Abide Pele there. And the 2008 African Cup was Andre Ayew's first appearance, just a sub in that one, but a starter in all tournaments, except the 2013 one. He effectively declined to attend that tournament. I won't get into the story. Captain of the team from the 2019 African Cup all the way to the 2022 World Cup. For the African Cup in 2023, he was just a sub in that tournament. But he did, when he stepped onto the field in one of the games, sorry, I forget which one, he became the player with the most appearances in African Cup history there, so a good claim to fame, and last appeared for the national team shortly after that tournament in March of 2024. So Andre Ayew off the squad, though his brother, as we saw, still playing. Michael Beidou is the other seemingly off the squad player. Doesn't have a lot of experience. He was on the preliminary squad for the 2023 African Cup and last appeared in November of 2024. All right, so that is it for the midfield. We move on to forwards here, and we have talked about a couple of the players who play as forwards, Jordan Ayew and Antoine Semenyo. So they have been discussed before this, but do play as forward in some games. The players we have to talk about begin with the likely Inaki Williams. And he is a likely candidate, as is Brandon Thomas Asante. And then we have Jeffrey Afree is Jeffrey Afriye is a possible candidate, and then finally Jonathan Soa seemingly off the squad there. So let's take a look at Inaki Williams here. He has been with Ghana since 2022 with 25 caps and 2 goals, and he's 32 years old. Yeah, he did actually play for Spain, and his brother does currently. Both of them born in Spain, but he threw his lot in with Ghana. He's been with Athletic Bilbao in Spain since 2014, so long-term member of that club. And Inaki Williams' first tournament was the 2022 World Cup. He started all 3 games there and had some pretty impressive moments. But for the 2023 African Cup, he was a sub in games 1 and 3, started only game 2 in that one. And over the recent period, he scored 2 of their 23 goals in qualifying, got a late winning goal against Madagascar in their opening game there, and has started only 4 of their 20 games, as well as subbing in for 4. He was out with 2 separate injuries for the last 4 games. He has recovered from that injury and not selected for 8 others. So yeah, that probably puts him somewhere between possible and likely. We landed on likely for Inaki Williams. The other likely candidate is Brandon Thomas Asante. Been with the team since 2024 with 7 caps and 1 goal, and is 28 years old. He came on our radar because he was named to the preliminary squad for the 2023 African Cup, but he didn't make the final cut. But I should have talked actually about his club career before I launched into his tournament career. He was born in England, Brandon Thomas Asante, and he plays for Coventry in England since 2024. Prior to that, he was with West Bromwich, West Brom for 2 years there. And he got his first cap in June of 2024 and started only one of their remaining 17 games there, but he was subbed in for 6 and on the bench for 4. Not selected for 6 of the matches over the period. So Brandon Thomas Asante, a likely candidate here. Our possible candidate is Jeffrey Afriye, and he's been with Ghana since 2024 with 6 caps and 1 goal. Just 20 years old he is, and plays for Al Qadsiya in Saudi Arabia since 2025. But I believe he's on loan to a Belgium team currently. At least he had been in 2025. I think he's still there. Jeffrey Afriye got his first cap in November of 2024. Didn't actually start any games, but was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 2. But not selected for 6 matches, and that includes the last 4. So we just have him as a possible candidate. Finally, Jonathan Soa. He was on the bench for the 2023 African Cup. He was selected for the roster. That was his first appearance, but last appeared in that tournament. So we won't go into more detail than that on him, unless he appears, like all of these players, at the possible but unlikely or seemingly off the squad level. If they appear on the final squad, we will give more details in part 2. All right, that brings us to the end of our look at the players, the end of section 2, and we move into section 3. We're going to start that with a quick review of basically what we did in section 2, the candidates and their likelihood. That's because we're creating a short version of the mediacast with this, and then we do have some concluding matters after that. So let's go back to the top. Begin with the manager. Current manager is Otto Addo, and we'll consider him a definite candidate because it would be a lot to change the manager just before the tournament here. We have, for goalkeepers, 2 definite candidates, Benjamin Asare and Lawrence Atizigi. And then we have a likely candidate with newcomer Joseph Anang. And we're not going to go into the players below the possible but unlikely level. So really, those are the only 3 viable candidates at this point. Let's go to defenders and central defenders, where we have a definite candidate in Mohamed Salisu, and then 3 likely candidates in Alexander Jiku, Jonas Adjeti, and Jerome Opoku. And 2 possible candidates as well, Razak Simpson and Kojo Opong. Okay, that's central defenders. Over to left back, we have definite candidate Gideon Mensah, and a likely candidate in newcomer Ebenezer Annan, and a possible candidate in Derek Cohn. For right backs, a definite candidate is Alidou Seydou. He sometimes plays in central defence as well. And a likely candidate with newcomer Caleb Yerenki. We also have possible candidate Tariq Lamptey. Maybe a bit more than possible there, but that's where we landed with him. And that's the defense. Let's move on to the midfield, beginning with defensive midfielders. None at the definite or likely level. But we do have 3 possible candidates here, Salis Abdul Samed and Elisha Ewusu and Ibrahim Sulemana. The more viable candidates, though, are coded as central midfielders, and there we have definite candidate Thomas Partey and 2 likely candidates, both newcomers, Kwasi Sibo and Abu Francis. There. Up we go to the attacking end of the field and attacking midfielders. For this run through Ghana, we've put Jordan Ayew, captain of the team, as a versatile attacker. He's been playing in various positions, more as a left attacking midfielder or else as a forward, and he's a definite candidate for the squad. For left attackers, we've moved forward Antoine Semenyo here because he's primarily been playing there, but also appears as a forward. He's a definite candidate, Antoine Semenyo. And beyond him, we have likely candidates Kamaldeen Sulemana and Christopher Ba, or Christopher Bonsu Ba. Left attackers. Right attackers, no candidates at the definite level, but Abdul Fattah. Abdul Fattah, sometimes listed as Isahaku, there. He's a likely candidate. And we also have possible candidate Joseph Pinksel. And then central attackers, we have a definite candidate in Mohamed Kudus and a possible candidate in Prince Owusu. The forward line tend to move around quite a bit, so we may find them in other positions as well. Let's go to the forwards, and we have no definite candidates there, but two likely candidates, keeping in mind that Jordan Ayew and Antoine Semenyo may also start as forwards. We have likely candidates in Aki Williams and Brandon Thomas Asante. And then at the possible level, we have Jerry Afri there, and that's it. That's what we spent time on introducing them in part 2 or in section 2. And now let's conclude with a little other business in section 3. Big names off the squad. Well, brother of Jordan Ayew, Andre Ayew. We won't go into details on this, but very experienced player for the squad, and last appeared in March of 2024. So he seems to be off the squad there. We also have Daniel Amarte. 55 caps for the national team between 2015 and 2024. Actually, both of those were part of the most recent African Cup that Ghana was in, the 2023 African Cup, played in January 2024. In the case of Daniel Amarte, that was the last appearance for him in that tournament. I forgot to say, I should say for Andre Ayew, that he was with the team from 2007 to 2024 with 120 caps and 24 goals. Wow. The third big name off the team, goalkeeper Richard Ofori. He was with the team from 2015 to 2024 with 33 caps, and he was a starter in the 2023 African Cup. However, that was his last appearance for the squad there. And next, right back, Dennis Odoi. With Ghana from 2022 to 2024. Only actually 14 caps for the team. The reason we have him on the list, I wouldn't call him a big name, but he was a starter in the 2023 African Cup there. So we add those players to the list. And that's true of the next player, Idrisu Baba. Only 29 caps between 2019 and 2024, but also a starter in the 2023 African Cup, even if he did lose his starting position after game 1. Let's go to injuries here. And we begin with Mohamed Salisu, the central defender, out with a cruciate ligament tear since early February and an unknown return date. So that would be a big loss for them. He's a definite candidate otherwise. And we'll have to see when we get to part 2 if we have updates on these players, but hopefully they will not lose him for this tournament. So that's Mohamed Salisu. Next, we have central midfielder Abu Francis. He's out with a tibia and fibula fracture since late November, also an unknown return date for him. He is a likely candidate for us here. So I'm going to put both of those in the unknown category. Next, we have Mohamed Kudus. I don't think this is going to be a problem. He had a hamstring injury, but seems close to recovery from that. So I'm going to put him in the expected back category. We're recording this in February, so there is time for these players to recover, and we will update in part 2. Next, we have right attacking midfielder Ernest Nuama. He was a possible but unlikely candidate for us, but his knee injury was part of the reason for that. He suffered a serious knee injury in April of 2025, quite a long time ago, but he still hasn't played for his club since. We think he might have a better chance if he recovers in time, but we're going to put him as an unknown also. And finally, we have right back Tariq Lamptey. He had several injuries over the recent period. This one was a cruciate ligament surgery, not an injury, but went in for surgery on that. He is due back on April 15th there, which would give him time to recover for the cup where he's selected. So he will be in the expected back category. And again, we will update those in part 2. I'm going to move directly through closing thoughts to previewing part 2, and in part 2 we're going to produce that when the final squad is published. We're hoping they will add a preliminary squad to that, and yes, we will let you know who's on both the preliminary and final squad. We'll basically go through the list that we created here and point out any surprises that would be notable non-selections or unexpected inclusions, or any new players that emerge between now and the Cup. And as I've said, we do an update on injuries in section 2. And then one of the things we also focus on is trying to predict the starting lineup for Ghana. So that's it for part 1. That's all we can do. We have to wait for the final squad to be published now. So we hope you join us when that comes out. Join us for part 2, and also join us for our look at other teams. We would like to thank Michael Foster and Pixabay for the wonderful music in this mediacast. The title of the piece used is Look to the Sky, Tribal Dance Beats Native American.